Hello, it's Sifu Kuttel, and in this video we're going to be focusing on doing our cloud hands technique with the Taiji fan. So we're going to do this with the fan closed and the fan open. Obviously it's only a single fan, so one of our hands is going to be open as we do this, but this is a great way to better understand our cloud hands technique and a good way of just developing the basics themselves. Now, I do suggest you practice this with both your left and your right hand holding the fan, because some of the forms you will actually switch your hands while doing these techniques, and otherwise it gives you a better picture and more well-rounded training of what both hands are doing. So we can really identify how one hand is moving, the angle of the arm, the height of the palm, those kinds of things when we actually have an object in our hand and we have some intention on it. So grab your fan and let's go get to work. Now, as we start doing this, I want you just to look at the fan as a measure of distance. We want to have good spatial awareness when we're doing this technique. Now, we are going to start with the fan closed, and you're going to notice first off that this becomes different in how we do the transition. When we are just moving with the open hand, we only have to move the distance apart for our arms. But now we have an extra length, almost forearm length, that we have to compensate for, especially when we're transitioning from one hand up to one hand down. Now, the other thing you're going to notice is the actual height of the fan. Now, when we do cloud hands, we don't want to brush across. So you should not see the fan come across this way flat or even coming back flat. We want to have further extension of the arm, both diagonally upward as we come across and diagonally downward as we come across when the hand is low. Okay? Now, I'm not going to go over too much on the technique itself. This is just cloud hands technique, so we're just going to start one hand holding the fan, one hand completely open. And then what we'll do is we'll step out. We'll bring if I have my left foot out, I'm going to bring my left hand up, and then I'm going to shift across. This shouldn't feel too awkward or different, but I do want you to pay attention to the angle of the fan. Try not to let it angle too straight down, and obviously not sideways here. Okay? We want to actually have it continue the angle of our arm as it comes across here. Now, as I step in, I'm going to I have to give a little more distance because I cannot do the same distance. I would just run into my own arm. So I'm going to compensate by coming out a little bit outward, and then I do have to hook my wrist a little bit here. But once I'm done, I match that same angle with my arm, and I want this to still be at the correct position as if I had the empty hand position in front of my face. So my thumb, the webbing here, should be at about lip level. And then I'm going to come across, change the hands, this should be natural, bring it across, step in, change that hand, notice big outward, and then I meet it. Try not to turn too soon, try not to come up and then just finish at the very end of bringing your hand up. Raise that hand and then come across. Step out, bring the hands across, step in, raise the hand, and then come across. Step out. Now let's go the other way. So we'll just change the hands, come across, step in, bring the hands across, step out. Again, same thing, we have to make that compensation for the length of our arm now with the fan in it. And then bring it across. And then again, step out. Make sure it's in position before you bring it across. Now, this is good to practice with both hands. You're going to notice if you're right hand dominant, once you put this in your left hand, the dynamic is going to be much different. You're going to notice you do fine in the compensation of bringing your right hand out and around, but you may feel that your basics of this hand are lacking. So again, just check back, make sure good angle, good height, and no extra bend of the wrist. Okay? Let's try it with the open fan now. Now you're going to find a completely different dimension of movement here, because now we have this extra curvature to move around with our other hand. And so we have to make some extra movements for compensation and a little bit of a different angle with our arm to bring the fan across. Now this is one time where aesthetics is going to change the technique, and we do want to think about keeping the fan, if it is a capital D, we want this capital D to move across. in a straight line, okay? So not at an angle here. And that's one thing you just keep an eye on as you're doing this. Let's start with the fan already up, and we'll start feet together. We'll step out and then bring it across. Now, make sure again, we have the hand at the correct level, and then our bottom hand should come across with intention and energy. The hand switch from here is very easy. The fan just drops down as the palm comes up. Notice I can turn a slight angle outward if I need to, because I don't want to keep my wrist bent in this way. So a little bit of an angle outward is good as we do that switch and across. But now as we come up this way, once we step out, I have to reach out again, and I have to make sure that the fan goes straight up and down as I come across here. If I'm too far out, then I really have to compensate by bringing my hand around that fan. But here, I just can reach out, and my hand will be further than the forearm. And then I come across, up, over, change the hands, and then across. Now, once we're here, we can actually go back in the opposite direction. Make sure, again, hand is in correct position. The fan hand, notice I do curve at the wrist here. I'm not going to be going straight down with the fan this time. I'm going to point the fan, come up, switch, step out, bring the fan across, come up, switch, step out. So you'll notice here, we have that different dimension of movement. We have to move around the fan a little bit more, but you'll find that if you practice with the closed fan correctly, the open fan is much easier to do. And it's really just understanding your basics as you're doing this. Now, of course, I mentioned it before. I'm going to mention it again. It's really important that when you're doing this, you practice both the left and the right sides for the fan, because it is a different hand that has the fan. There are different dynamics that you're going to have to pay attention to and different adjustments that you'll have to make. And you'll really be able to highlight those when you actually have the fan in your hand. You will really definitely see where you need to make those adjustments and improvements in your own training. Okay, so there you have it. This is really simple. It's really, you put any object in your hand and it's going to change the dynamic of the technique itself, but you can see how the root of the technique with the empty hands can be applied with objects in different lengths and different widths. The fan gives it a completely new dimension. So I hope you guys enjoy this training. Again, I do want to mention it's important to practice with both your left and your right hands for this one, because doing it with just one hand will help you on one side. You have to practice with both sides because you'll have a better understanding of your angle, your distance, and just spatial awareness when using the fan. So let me know if you have any questions or if you have any requests for any other techniques. Drop a comment down below and I will answer it there and maybe make another video. Otherwise, I hope you guys enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in the next video.